Hello, welcome to a video on how to graph in Excel. This is for using Excel on Mac. My version of Excel is fairly old. It's the 2004 version, so you may have a newer version which has more features. It may be a little bit different. The important thing that I recommend doing here is to make sure you understand how to do it on your computer and not just follow blindly through my directions. Use these kind of as a guideline for when you're either in class or doing something, but really go through and use your computer. Up here underneath the help button at the top, you can always search and really just type in any good questions that you have. But let's get started. This is some data that I have. I'm a science teacher. I just got data lying around all over the place. It's from my mini bike lab when I rode my mini bike down the hall. And we have a distance, we have time. We're going to make a distance time graph. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this up here. It's the chart wizard. It looks like a little bar graph up here at the top of my sheet. I'm going to click on that. We're always going to pretty much make a XY scatter in our class. I don't think of any other reason that we would make any other type of graph going throughout the year as I look ahead. We're going to select the first type here. There's a couple different chart subtypes. We don't want to connect the lines. We're just going to let them, we're just going to have the graph the points. So I'm going to double click on this. And the first thing that I'm always going to do, this actually is already kind of done it for me because I only have 2 columns of data. But I'm going to go into my series and I'm going to remove everything. I just like to clear it off and make sure it's set. I'm starting from scratch. So I'm going to add a series, a point. This here, I'm first going to add my X values. So I'm going to click on this little button right here. Screen kind of pops up. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to select all of my values. I see how I have them going right here. Close them. That's step 1. Now I'm going to do the Y values. The important thing when you do this is you're going to want to delete what's ever in the box first. Usually there's always something there, and for some reason, whenever Excel puts it in there, sometimes the equations, they get all crazier and whatnot. So we're just going to delete this. And then the same thing, I'm going to click on the side button. I'm going to select my data. Remember, we want to put time always on. It goes on the x-axis, so I selected that first. This here, I'm going to name this mini bike. Some little quick name will show you can graph multiple series on a single graph. So I've had 2 lines or 3 lines. I could graph them both here right now, and I could have all sorts of different data on there. I'm going to click Next. Now I need to actually assign my graph some values. So I have a title. We're going to go Mr. Wolf's Mini Bike Trip. And our value on the x-axis is time, and this is in seconds. On the y-axis is distance, and this is in meters. We could even say that that's position. Next, I'm going to go here with axes. This allows us to put our values and different things on there. So if I click here, notice how the values disappear on the bottom for the x-axis. We don't need to worry about that. Not going to change that. Grid lines. You don't generally need to do it. We could add major grid lines here. Pretty straightforward. You can see the difference. Go through. Legend. That's this over here. We're only going to need that if we're graphing multiple sets of data. So right now I'm going to unclick it and it's just going to disappear. Data labels. Never really need to label our data. We'll be all right with that. Don't need to worry about that. So next. This is an important step. I always am going to ask you to put this, place the chart in a new sheet. It's going to give you a sheet down here at the bottom. And you can title this. So I'm going to title this one Graph. And click Finish. And voila, here is my data. So I have my original data, and right down here at the bottom here, we can see graph. All right, so I have my title, I have axes labeled, nice. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, it's either right click or control click on the plot area, and I'm going to format plot area. I'm going to change the color of the fill to no fill. The reason that I do this is because if you print it out, it wastes a lot of ink, and also sometimes it's hard to see, especially when I'm projecting things up on the board. So here we go. We now have our data like this. Now, as of right now, this is pretty okay, pretty fine. Like, I'm not going to ask too much of it. But if I were to ask you to do a best fit line or a regression line, there's a couple other steps to follow. So here we go on how to do that. We're going to right click, or I think you can actually do it if you double click on the dots, but we're going to right click, or I'm going to control click, and I'm going to go add trend line. Now I have a couple of different options here. I have a linear trend line and a polynomial trend line. Just looking at this graph here, it kind of looks like a straight line. I mean, there is a little bit of a curve to it, but you know what, for this, I think I'm just going to see if it fits on a linear trend line. If we do a polynomial trend line, it will almost always only be of the second order. Don't worry about that now. You won't have to see that for this graph right here. I'm going to click on the options. I'm going to display equation on chart and display R squared. The R squared value is really like how well this line will fit the data. So we want to make sure we put that right on there. And here we go. There's our line. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger over here. Put it up here, I guess. There we go. All right, so here is our equation for our line. Here is our best fit line right here. We have that all done. The R squared value, a really good R squared value is going to be 0.98, 0.9, anything like very close to 1. This, not that great. It's kind of accurate, but it's not very good overall. So here was a really quick introduction into graphing in Excel. From here I could print out my graph along with my data table and be ready to go. Once you get comfortable with this, it should really save you a lot of time, whether in this class or in future classes, just in graphing in general. It still is important to be able to create a graph by hand and just being able to use those skills, those kinetic skills and drawing something out, but it also will help you save time, and as we become more of a technology-based society, you can start moving forward with this. So hopefully this was helpful. If you have any questions, come talk to me. Have a good afternoon.